In small-town Jay, Florida, September 22, 1988, the Rosa County Sheriff's Office received a distressing 911 call from a couple at 6:30 a.m. The couple frantically explained that they had just found a little girl walking alone on the side of the road, her throat slit and bleeding. She was alive, but fading in and out of consciousness, as more and more blood drained from her small body. Saye Rivazfar and her siblings did not have an easy life. Her childhood began like any ordinary childhood. But after her parents' divorce, things took a dark turn. Her mother, a violent alcoholic named Patricia, who horribly mistreated all her children, won full custody during the divorce, and so Saye and her siblings were forced to live with her. As the oldest, Saye not only took care of herself, but also her little sister Sarah and her little brother, cooking and cleaning for them while she was still in elementary school herself. In addition, Saye had to care for her mother, who was very dysfunctional and would often have migraines due to hangovers. Child Protective Services had been called on the family multiple times after the children were seen with bruises and cigarette burns, but nothing ever came of it. To make matters worse, Saye's mother was constantly bringing men home, sometimes just as a one-night stand she met at the bar or a meaningless fling, sometimes as long-term relationships. Many of these men were rage-fueled addicts, just like Patricia, and so the children were frequently subjected to even more domestic violence. One of Patricia's longer relationships was with a man named Ray Wyke. Although Ray seemed like a nice enough guy, always buying gifts for Saye and Sarah, he was the most deplorable of all of Patricia's boyfriends. His generosity was merely a facade. At night, Ray would go into Saye's room and sexually molest her, threatening to kill her if she ever spoke up about the abuse. Saye told nobody about what was happening and continued to endure the unspeakable from her mother's boyfriend. She was just 8 years old when this was occurring. On September 21, 1988, Patricia left her kids with Ray while she went out to go party at the local bars. Ray sent the children off to their rooms for bed around 8 p.m. Saye and her sister had the idea to get ready for school that night rather than in the morning, and so they slept in their school clothes that night. At 12:30 a.m., over 4 hours after he put the children to bed, Ray carried a sleeping Saye and Sarah out to his car. When the girls woke up and asked where they were going, Ray told them they were driving to see their mother. Ray didn't drive for too long before he pulled over on the side of a dirt road. To Saye and Sarah's confusion, Patricia was nowhere around. Ray then proceeded to stop the car, change into a pair of white shorts, and tie up Sarah by her arms and legs. He took Saye into the woods, where he sexually assaulted her yet again. Suddenly, another car drives down the dirt road, pulling up. As the driver briefly conversed with Ray, Saye silently prayed that the driver would notice the blood on Ray's white shorts. But to her disappointment, he doesn't, and drives off. Ray went on to sexually abuse Saye for hours on end. Saye could do nothing but cry and scream in pain while her sister was forced to watch from the car. It wasn't until 6 a.m., when the sun began to rise, that Ray finally stopped. He ordered Saye to put her pants back on and brought both sisters deeper into the woods. Setting Sarah, who was still tied up, next to a tree, Ray instructed Saye to say her prayers. Believing this was the moment that she was going to die, Saye did as she was told and said her final prayers. When she was done, Ray took out a blade and slit her throat. Saye was too shocked to feel any physical pain as blood flowed from her neck, covering her shirt. She fell to the ground, where she made a quick decision to simply play dead in hopes Ray would buy into her little act. If he knew she was still alive, he might do more to finish the job, actually killing Saye. And so, she laid as still and as quietly as she could manage. As she stayed on the ground with her eyes closed, Saye listened to the treacherous sounds of Ray slitting the throat of her little sister. Saye explains that she remembers hearing Sarah scream and scream and scream, until eventually she stopped screaming and went completely silent. After Ray had left, Saye shook Sarah's lifeless, unmoving body, calling her name over and over. Sarah did not respond, her eyes blank and glazed over. Nothing left to do, Saye began walking down the dirt road with her hand held to her bloody throat. A blue truck carrying a couple drove by, spotting Saye. The couple pulled over and offered their help, deeply concerned for the girl. The man gave Saye a t-shirt to cover her wound, while the woman called the police and described Saye's condition. As the girl was rushed to the hospital, she told Sergeant Bill McCurdy, one of the officers that arrived with the ambulance, about her sister, asking that he go back for her. Sergeant McCurdy promised Saye that he would find Sarah. When the sergeant asked who did this to Saye and her sister, the girl did not hesitate to name Ray Wyke. Within minutes, the police swarmed Ray's home. He denied everything, but was arrested. Saye's heart stopped in the ambulance and 2 more times in the operating table in the hospital, but by some miracle, she managed to pull through and survive. Her sister Sarah, on the other hand, was not so lucky. As promised, the sergeant went back to look for Sarah in the woods, trudging through the trees and sticks. After looking around, he came across the little girl's corpse, her throat slit just like her sister. Several states away, Saye and Sarah's father received a phone call no parent should ever have to receive. He took the next flight out to Florida to see Saye in the hospital, as well as to identify the dead body of his youngest daughter. After years of battling his ex-wife for custody, Saye's father finally won his children from Patricia and was able to take Saye and her brother home with him, where they were finally safe and taken care of, and brought to court in 1989. In court, Saye testified against him, recounting how he raped her, tried to take her life, and took the life of her sister. The jury found Ray guilty of sexual battery, attempted murder, first-degree murder, and kidnapping. For his crimes, he was given the penalty of death. Even though Saye's living situation underwent a drastic improvement when she moved in with her father, the young girl could not forget that horrific September night, the night she watched her sister die in front of her own eyes at the merciless hands of Ray Wyke. She vividly remembered how helpless and unable to do anything she felt in the moment. Saye never wanted to feel that powerless ever again. Today, Saye works as a dedicated New York State trooper, determined to protect vulnerable children like herself from criminals like Ray. She explains, "I wanted to honor Sarah, my sister, and provide awareness and even possibly prevention by sharing my story to victims' families. My mission was to become a strong voice for all young girls, all women, all crime victims and their families. A mission of hope to light that pathway for those who are walking this dark path that I traveled as a child. A fighter for those who need me now. Know this, I will never give up that fight." If you like this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more disturbing true stories.